Good evening, everyone. It's Necro Thursday. I'm here with co-host Jeff Kashid. How are you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Doing okay. I was just telling you offline, I've just been like super exhausted these last couple of days. I'm not sure what it is, but feeling a little run down, you know?
Same here, man. Yes, which I also told you off air. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like if someone just tapped me with their finger, I would fall over half the time.
Yeah.
Completely shot.
Yeah, hopefully, today being, the weekend looming ahead, maybe get some good rest or something like that,
Yeah, it's definitely needed. Maybe it's the weather here. I've lived in California for a long time. You get adjusted to it. And, here one day it's 80 degrees, the next day it's, 50 and cloudy. And maybe that's just, fucking with me. And I don't know. Maybe I'm dying. I don't know.
We're all dying in this kind of Sylvia Plath sort of way, I guess,
Yeah. Didn't she fucking drown herself?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she drowned her. She died some dramatic way. She drowned herself or stuck her head in an oven or something. I can't remember which one.
Can you imagine drowning yourself?
No.
I feel
God,
like
no.
every even as much as you want, if you wanted to really die, even there's some part of you that would not allow yourself to drown. I feel like, unless you tied like a fucking anvil to your ankle or something like that and dropped it in a lake or something,
Yeah, exactly. Or that would be in the top three of ways to not to die. Like that, setting yourself on fire. I think that's even more brutal.
I heard though, once your nerve endings burn away, you don't feel anything if you immolate yourself,
Yeah, I guess. Well, Mike, there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, that's it, man. Let's do it. No.
Yeah. Well, I put my hand too close to the stove the other day, and it was so hot. I was like, I can't imagine experiencing that all over your body for I don't know, a minute. How long would it take to for your nerve endings to burn away? It would take some time.
That's what made the ending of Saint Maud so intense, man.
Oh God, yeah. One of the most disturbing split-second shots in a movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Before we get rolling, I just want to remind everyone that once you're done with this podcast, you got to head on over to the other horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse respective shows. And of course, on Monday, we have Brandon Legion bringing us every damn week Horror Wolf 666, which his horror podcast focuses on interviews. And he's got up-and-comers, old salts, and pretty much a really good group of guests. And
except for me, I'm going to be a guest on it tomorrow.
Oh, hey, that's awesome, dude. Except what,
yeah.
you're already telling everyone not to expect a whole lot from it. You didn't even do it yet, man.
Well, yeah. Pretty much.
Tuesday, we have Grandmaster Jackie Smith bringing you into the Necrosphere, the premier extreme music podcast on the internet. And it's really the only music-related show that I listen to. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is a pastiche of various subjects. You can find episodes about music, art, filmmaking, martial arts, and pretty much anything. It's it's an open book for people. Thursday, of course, is Necro Thursday, which is today. Mm-hmm. Friday, we have Break the Apocalypse featuring Mike Scandato's very own brother, John Draper. And that's also a very diverse subject matter related show. It's the irreverence on, daily events, things like that. Saturday is a day off from the Horsemen, so go out, enjoy the sun, take off your shoes, run your toes through some grass, something like that. Get vitamin D, like that kind of thing. Re-energize yourself, because on Sunday Kal Haikara brings the darkness with Soul Knox.
Yes, indeed. And you were you just on that?
Yeah, actually, I'm almost like a semi-regular guy on his show. I mean, we do a lot of these Eldritch Tales episodes together where we talk about weird fiction, and we're planning an upcoming crossover series actually, where we're going to be breaking down all of the stories that are in the new Carl Edward Wagner reissue of In a Lonely Place, you know, and I hope that this republication of this book is heralding the return of his other work, because he's been out of print for a really long time, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. And you were just on Horror Wolf as well,
That's right.
talking
Yeah.
about the scariest six scariest horror movie moments in your life.
That's right. Yeah, and that's it's always fun to get together with Brandon on these types of things. You know, I enjoy these list shows, stuff like that.
Me too, man. I am a sucker for lists.
Yeah, and it changes all the time too. You know what I mean? It's like that day, that could be my list, but then like 2 days later, it's probably different. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It made me go through my head and like, well, what would be my six scariest? And I would say 99% of it is from early childhood.
Exactly, man. And I feel like, you know, that's a testament to the brilliance of Skinamarink about early childhood and vulnerability and things really scaring you and that sort of stuff, you know?
Absolutely. I'm already convinced that is going to be in my top 5 for 2023.
Me too. You know, as time goes on, I like it more and more. And I actually gave it another viewing. And it's even more fucking intense the second time you watch it, because you kind of know what's going on a little bit. And I don't know, it's like it makes the those sort of sections of the film where nothing's going on, like you kind of you're starting to look deeper into it, you know. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it more the second time.
Haven't seen it a second time, although I have to say, still pouring in text messages saying, I can't believe you told me to watch this.
Well, I haven't. I will never recommend anyone watching it. I would say, you know, the best I would say to someone is like, check this out at your own peril. You know what I mean? It's
Always an asterisk at the end, like, oh, by the way, you might hate this.
yeah, it's like listening to White House or something. You know, it's not for everyone. You know, some people, you know, enjoy bands like that, and some people just don't. You know, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different strokes for different folks.
Speaking of movies and stuff, you check anything out recently?
A few things I wanted to mention. Saw a few trailers I wanted to get your opinion on. There is yet another Children of the Corn film coming out, another remake. I thought this movie was remade maybe like 10, 12 years ago. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But now we're getting it again for some reason. What do you think of that?
Completely unnecessary.
Yeah, totally. And it doesn't look. The original Children of the Corn is not great. I mean, it kind of follows Stephen King's story, but omits the ultra bleak ending. And I was like, well, maybe this one will stick closer to the story. But this looks like it took King's idea and is just sort of going in a completely different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I just prefer the short story best. You know what I mean? It's like you know, kind of like an American folk horror story. You know, it's like Stephen King Americanizing like an Arthur Machen story or something like that. That's kind of how I view it. You know?
Yeah, and with 11 movies out, or 12, I don't know how many. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's
You
a
figure
lot of
one of them would.
a lot of sequels, man, for sure.
One of them, you think by now would have gotten it right. And from what I've seen, they haven't. And I haven't seen all of them. I think I've seen the first one, maybe one or two others. I can't remember.
I mean, with the exception of a very short list of films, the sequels have just been like really, you know, all these franchises don't get better the more movies you add to it, you know.
Yeah, very true. Another thing that caught my attention, I don't know if we talked about this off air or if you would Mike Scandato talked about this. There's another Evil Dead movie coming out too, which I saw the trailer for.
Yeah, yeah. We had a discussion about this. I thought you were included on this, but I guess
I
not.
probably was,
Yeah,
but my memory sucks. And I know I was watching the trailer the other day, and I was like, yeah, I still don't know what I think. I mean, that's another movie that, like, the first three are great, and I did not like the remake at all. I thought the TV show was kind of okay, a little bit too silly for me. Uh, this looks to have that Bloomhouse sheen on it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So skeptical, but I'm still gonna check it out, of course.
that Bloomhouse sheen is like that in the '80s, where there'd be like a scene in a film where there's like some shirtless dude with like Vaseline rubbed all over his body. You know what I mean? That's the Bloomhouse sheen, if you ask me.
Yeah, I call it like the Bloomhouse sheen of like the Netflix look, right? And it just has that look to it.
Yeah, no,
So right away that bugged me. And on the flip side, because we're covering a George Romero movie today, um, and because it was next to Land of the Dead in my collection, I watched the Night of the Living Dead remake by Tom Savini from 1990.
well, I back that remake honestly.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah, me and Mike did an episode on that a while back, and it was I fucking love it. I think it's great. I saw that in a movie theater actually.
Oh wow, yeah. No, I mean it's good. It sticks pretty much to the original with a few changes to the ending and to the Barbara character, and there's definitely some corniness to it, which we'll probably get into when we talk about Land of the Dead. Like when she says, "We are them and they are us," like just fucking the biggest eye roll
Yeah,
ever. But it's pretty it's surprisingly tame too for Tom Savini directing. I would imagine in 1990 he probably ran into some problems with the ratings board or something and had to tone it down. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I'm guessing.
yeah. Savini's famously unsatisfied with that movie, apparently.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I've
So
read.
maybe we'll get like a Zack Snyder style director's cut that's like 3 hours long or something.
I kind of wouldn't mind seeing something like that, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of wouldn't either, to tell you the truth. Yeah, still watching The Last of Us, which I assume you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
yeah.
Thoughts?
It's losing me a little.
This last episode that aired, and when people listen to this, it's going to be offset by a couple weeks. But that last episode, man, it's at the precipice of really jumping the shark. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah. I was the first three episodes was very on board. It's like three so far, great, and it's tapered off a lot. Like it just seems to be like blowing through really big moments and like, okay, that happened, moving on. So they still got a few episodes to turn it around, but strong start, weak middle, hopefully strong ending.
and also they kind of meditate a little too much on these heartstrings moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like I like having my heartstrings plucked every now and then, but not like
sure.
in every single episode. It seems like there's like the super emotional, and sort of item like element of the story that comes up, and I'm like, all right, okay, now it's becoming like they're just going to that well like too many times.
Yeah, well, I thought a big moment was, him reuniting with his spoilers. Well, I mean, it's in the
No, people will
previews.
have seen that by the time. I mean, if you're
True.
watching the show, by the time you hear this, you'll already seen the episode.
The reuniting, like with his brother, that felt like a bigger story arc, and they just sort of blow through it in, 45 minutes or an hour. I was like, really? That's it? Uh,
Yeah, it's like what would have been cool because like this story is definitely sizing up like almost like a western or something, which I like westerns. I'm a big fan
oh,
of
of
like
course.
that style, where it's like his brother. They really could have had a moment where the brother left his pregnant wife, and there would be that You know, like you see that in westerns where you bring the guy out back on the road again for one last run.
Yeah.
Like I thought that's what this was going to be. I thought that's the direction it was going to go in, where he was going to bring his brother out with him to accompany him, and he's like, there would be a conflict between him and the wife. It just makes us. But he's like, well, it's my brother. I have to. I got to see this to the end. Some sort of like dramatic element like that. But that's where I really thought it was going, but it didn't.
No, it didn't. And he makes this decision. Well, I'm gonna like leave Ellie in my brother's hands. And 5 minutes later, he's like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna take you.
That was a little weird. I thought that section.
Yeah, it just felt like this should be a big moment. Like, and they just brush right through it. I don't know. Jury's still out for that show, whether or not. I still, when all is said and done, will probably still say it's the best video game adaptation ever, because I mean, really, the rest of them are just garbage. I've never seen a good one, and this, I mean, is good. It's just sort of rubbing me the wrong way.
Check. I understand.
Yeah. What about you, man? What have you been watching or checking out?
I never saw the Ving Rhames Day of the Dead.
Oh my God, I forgot all about that.
It's on Tubi right now, so I watched it.
And
all right. If it's like a Saturday afternoon and you really are bored, definitely check it out, because it's like watching like a Sci-Fi Channel like show.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, I used to love doing that when I was like hungover back in Boston.
It's perfect for that. If you're like just shot and you're like got nothing to do and you're too lazy to do anything, and there's you ran out of other stuff to watch, and it's on Tubi right now, so you check it out. And
Okay.
but it wasn't good. I mean, it wasn't like oh yeah, man, this thing rules. It's not definitely. It's the opposite of that for sure. And I just think it's funny because Ving Rhames was in the Dawn of the Dead remake too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is he playing the same character?
No, this actually has nothing to do with the George Romero continuity.
Okay.
They just basically heisted the name Day of the Dead. You know how like a lot of times Italian films will do that? They'll like they'll just like name it something that like a sequel to a film that came out in the United States, and it just has nothing to do with it. So they stole that from the Italians, but it has nothing to do. Not even like. Actually, to be honest with you, the concept is pretty interesting. Like the germ of the idea for this it's different. It's more like an infected zombie kind of thing.
Okay.
And Ving Rhames isn't even really in the film for that much. He's only in like a handful of scenes.
Oh, interesting. They just needed like a name to sell it. Like, we got Ving Rhames.
Yeah, he's not the star of the movie at all. And so I don't know. It was like I definitely won't watch it again, but it's like part of me was like, I've seen all the other zombie movies out there, and that's one of the ones I haven't seen. So one night I just decided to watch it, like, before I went to sleep.
No, so what's it a sequel to exactly? Is it a sequel to the original or the?
No. It's a standalone thing. It almost felt like I mentioned Sci-Fi Channel. It almost felt like this was like a pilot for a sci-fi television show or something.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Okay.
I just that may or may not even be the truth, but it feels like it was setting up like another world to start having episodes in.
Sure. You know what? In my head, I was getting confused. This is technically a remake. There is a sequel to Day of the Dead 2.
Yeah.
I get, yeah. Which apparently is pretty terrible. I don't know. I've never seen it.
I wouldn't even call this a remake because, like I said, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything in the Romero universe, because it starts at day one of the zombie infection.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Is it in the public domain or something? Like, how anyone can remake Night of the Living Dead because it's in the public domain? Is Day of the Dead the same thing?
I have no idea. I doubt it, because I think a major studio produced that. So I imagine
that's what I thought.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know how they got away with calling it Day of the Dead.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching and taking one for the team.
Yeah. Then I also watched another Tubi film called Crone Woods.
Crone Woods. Oh.
Not bad. It's I've been watching this guy's YouTube channel. This guy called the Ghost Pirate, and he showed up in my stream one day, and I was like, all of his shows are like recommendation shows, you know, on various streaming services, and this one was recommended by this guy, and it actually was pretty good. It was like a found footage film, a folk horror film. It takes place in the woods in Ireland. I kind of back this movie, actually. I think it's pretty good.
Okay, Crone Woods or Crone Woods.
Yeah, Crone Woods. Yeah.
Should be easy for me to remember.
Yeah, it's the name of your electronic project that you're doing.
Yeah, my techno
Your
project.
techno dance project.
Yeah, exactly.
Your dark wave synth project, side project that you're doing.
Yeah, we're kind of going into the outlaw country territory with the next one.
Everyone has a dark wave synth side project these days, so the outlaw country thing would be the next thing to do.
It's going to come back around because when post rock was popular, or post metal, everyone in those post metal bands were like, yeah, man, I only listen to like outlaw country. Like, oh, that's funny. You sound a lot like Neurosis. You must have heard them once or twice.
Do you think that has something to do with one of the members in Neurosis saying that he likes outlaw country?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? People just trying to be cool,
There's Crone Woods is cool. But there's this thing in there where part of me is like the story. It's a good story. And it has to do with like the Green Man, like Cernunnos and all this like folklore stuff, which I thought was interesting. And
oh, for sure.
And but this guy basically gets abducted by these like young Irish chicks out in the woods.
As you do.
And he's like, no, I'm not going to join you. And I'm like, bro, it's like, I wish these women would have like found me in the woods somewhere and invited me to join their little operation out there. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the only thing in the movie where I'm like, why would you like run away from this? It sounds great. You're eating like, organic food every day. And there's like these, really attractive young women around you all the time. And, so what?
Yeah,
it's anti-Christian,
Yeah. Well, if you got nothing else going on in life, that's a pretty good gig.
But yeah, I recommend checking it out. It's pretty good, Okay,
definitely. I don't think I have Tubi. Maybe I do. I don't know.
It's free.
Have every app. Oh, it's free.
It's free. It's just that you have to sit through a couple ads, but it's free.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of good stuff on there, man. There's actually Abel Ferrara's Blackout is on there.
Never seen that either.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite Abel Ferrara film.
Really?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Okay. I still might go with The Funeral for mine, but I haven't seen a ton of his films, but really, really liked The Funeral.
I've seen all of them except for his newest one that sort of came out, I guess. I mean, it's out there somewhere. I don't know where you can watch it, but it made like a round through festivals, but I don't know if it's been officially released.
Okay.
And the Blackout it's got Dennis Hopper. It's got Beatrice Dahl is in it. It's got Claudia Schiffer plays in it.
Okay.
Matthew Modine.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember him.
And then, like, some of the other regulars from Abel Ferrara's films have, like, cameos in there as, like, drug dealers and, creeps and stuff like that,
Vincent Gallo?
No Vince Gallo.
Yeah. He doesn't get a lot of repeat business as far as working with directors goes.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right on.
So that's, that's what I've been up to.
Nice. And so the movie we're going to talk about today, what are we talking about today, Mike?
Let's see. This is Land of the Dead. The another one of the Romero zombie series. And I think, in my opinion, this is kind of like the third in that. I look at these three as like a trilogy of movies.
Oh, like after the night,
Yeah.
dawn, day. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like that's, like this is like post trilogy. I didn't mean like part of that trilogy. Like there's that three that kind of encapsulate one phase of the zombie saga. And this is like the post next wave of storytelling that's after that.
Interesting. I kind of see it as this fits more with the original three than with the two that came after Land of the Dead, which would be Diary and Survival.
We'll get to this, but I'll tell you why I don't see it. But yeah, okay.
All right, right on.
Yeah, so this came out a couple of release dates here. There's June 18th, 2005 at Cine Vegas, which is a festival. June 24th, 2005 in the US and Canada. And then August 10th, 2005 in France.
Okay.
The French had their own release date for this.
Sure.
I'm sure there was like some sort of complaining involved, and and they got their own special release date in France.
Yeah, probably.
Written and directed by George Romero, the maestro of zombie fiction, and this is a film where Greg Nicotero did the zombie effects in it, and we all know him as he's kind of the maestro of zombie special effects, in my opinion.
Yeah, at this point, for sure. I mean, I think The Walking Dead really put him into the stratosphere. I mean, he was a known guy before that, but now he's a household name.
Yeah, and the zombies in this film have that Nicotero look to them. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The practical effects in this are very good.
Pretty good cast in this one too. We got Dennis Hopper as Paul Kaufman, Asia Argento as Slack. Cool name, right?
Yeah, there's some funny names in this.
Yeah. We've got Big Daddy Zombie is he's kind of a star, I guess, in this too, and that's played by Eugene Clark. We have John Leguizamo. What the fuck is his name in this? Let's see. Cholo. Yeah. Not not too on the nose.
Yeah, it's like calling your character like tough guy or something.
Yeah. Simon Baker as Riley Denbo, and that's essentially that's like the main players in this.
Right.
Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright are also are in this film. There's they're photo booth zombies, so there's kind of little Tom Savini as Blades, the machete zombie, and Greg Nicotero himself is in this as Bridgekeeper zombie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He was also in the Day of the Dead, which I didn't know that until listening to you guys' podcast.
Yeah,
you and Mike.
Yeah, and this is a top shelf production.
Yeah, I think the success of the Dawn of the Dead remake and the resurgence of zombies in pop culture made this possible because, I mean, we went a whole 20 years without a Romero zombie movie.
Yeah. This is 97 minutes long. This cut that I watched, actually. I don't know if this is the 97 minutes. I have another cut of this film, which is actually a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Which version you watched?
I did not for the purposes of this documentary, this episode. I did not watch the director's cut. I watched more of the theatrical cut.
Okay.
Because I feel like that one's the one that's more readily available for people.
I watched the director's cut.
The difference between those is there's some more lingering scenes of carnage, I think.
Yeah, I saw this in the theater, which I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I remember talking about this movie with you back in the day. On tour, we had we talked about it for a minute.
Yeah.
The director's cut didn't. I mean, I don't think I mean, I must have watched it because I went through my DVDs and it was unwrapped. So I guess I watched it at some point, but rewatching it, I was like, this doesn't seem that much different than the theatrical cut, other than one scene, which I was like, I don't remember this being in the theatrical cut, although it could just be bad memory. There's a scene where it's like it kind of reminds you that you don't need to get bitten to be a zombie. You just have to die.
Yeah, yeah, that's in the director's cut.
Yeah, it's not in the theatrical cut then, right?
No, and there's also some of the scenes of there's more a little bit more gore in the director's cut too.
Yeah, yeah. I remember. I was like, this is definitely gorier than I remember it. But
And it's funny because when you watch the director's cut, it's almost like you're like, okay, I got it. You know what I mean? Like those
yeah,
scenes were cut just to make the whole story tighter. You know?
yeah. Which this will probably come up later. I don't know if tight would be a good way to make a movie like this. There's a lot going on with this movie. There's a lot of balls in the air. You have a lot of different plots happening. This felt like it was meant to be some sort of like 2 hour epic at least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But at the heart of it, the main storyline is, I would say, is really between Cholo and Paul Kaufman. That's kind of like what pushes the whole story forward, really. And yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Well, Mike, the reason I wanted to cover this is, it keeps coming up that like time can be really good to horror movies. You know, it's something was kind of shit on and panned when it comes out. 10 years later, it's considered a classic. Now, when Land of the Dead came out, like I said, this was the height of zombie popularity. I think the Walking Dead comic book was definitely in full swing. I
right.
don't think the show was yet.
No, the show didn't happen until a few years after that.
Right. It was the height of my zombie fandom. Like I was really, really into the Romero stuff and anything zombie related. And I kind of remember this movie landing with a thud.
Yes.
It did with me first watch in the theater. I thought, well, that was a zombie movie. So now it's been, almost another 20 years. It's been 18 years or something. I was curious to take a look at this now and seeing it with modern eyes. Maybe like, has it aged well? People view this differently. So that was the main reason I kind of wanted to get into it. And it's been about 15 years since I've seen this. So
yeah, I mean, this came out a year after the Dawn of the Dead remake came out. I think somewhere like
right.
it's shortly after the Dawn of the Dead remake came out. This came out, and I was like all about the Dawn of the Dead remake. I loved it.
Yeah, it's still Zack Snyder's best movie.
I agree. I did not like this movie at first viewing. I was like, yeah, it's like I just expected more out of Romero. But as time went on, I kind of thought about, yes, Romero is the creator of the modern zombie. That's there's no arguing that. Like that's back in 1968 when he did Night of the Living Dead. That was the first version, the first time you saw zombies like that.
Right. Yes.
But primarily, he uses the medium as a way to kind of make commentary on society. Be it consumerism, like racism, and in this movie, it really is kind of like a commentary on class.
Yeah, and that's one of the flaws of the movie, in my opinion. It's definitely worthy of Romero's treatment. I just think it is, in this scenario, it's kind of ridiculous. And I think like Romero was like, well, these zombie movies have got to be about something else. And it isn't given the thought it deserves in this, I think.
I think it's like very heavy-handed, and the characters are just basically cutouts of idealized characters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And the movie just tries to I have it written down. This movie is flawed on a conceptual level. Like I think it needed to really be rethought to be a really good movie. Because, like you said, it's about class. George Romero's zombie movies are sequels, I think, in name only. But they kind of each exist in their own little stratosphere. Would you say that? I mean, there's no direct references to any of the other characters or movies in this.
No, but there is one element from Day of the Dead that seems to carry over into Land of the Dead, and
Oh, really?
yeah, it's they kind of hinted at Bub in Land of the Dead. I'm sorry, Day of the Dead, having some rudimentary intelligence,
Yes.
right? And that idea is developed more in Land of the Dead.
Slightly more developed, yeah.
No, but I mean, they're not just like these mindless, eating machines,
Right.
So that is like one thing that carries over, I think, between movies.
That's true. And you have Tom Savini's, I guess, character from Dawn of the Dead as a zombie in this. I took that more as like a wink, wink to the fans.
Yeah, that was like some fan service for sure. Yeah.
But conceptually, I mean, basically, the movie is about, in Romero's words back then, I remember, he's like, this movie's about ignoring the problem. The problem is zombies. Uh, so, yeah, they set up this society based around money. There's a class system. You have the ultra rich with Kaufman, Dennis Hopper's character at the top. He's got his minions. And then there are the slums. And right off the bat, I got to say, that idea of money in this world having any value is completely absurd.
Yes, unless everyone buys into that idea. You know what I mean? It's like I think about that, about trading in like this kind of post-apocalyptic world where all it would take, and humans do this. This is part of human nature, is to just sort of like agree and follow people. So if everyone agrees that money has value, then it has value.
Sure.
And I think that in a post-apocalyptic society, I know nowadays everyone wants anarchy and revolution. Anarchy. I want to like have a civil war and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
But the reality is, people want order. They don't want anarchy. So in a world like this, where you're actually being torn apart by the Walking Dead, I think that order is something that people would gravitate towards. And that's when someone is open to be exploited. And I think, the Kaufman character steps in, and he's like the upper elite middle class. That's like being kind to the plot. Like in reality,
Yeah.
I don't think there would ever a caste system like this would ever really develop. But that's just food for thought, I guess, going into this movie.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, this society isn't actually producing or making anything, because it shows, I mean, Riley and Cholo, their job is to go out and scavenge. At least that's what I gathered.
Yeah. They go out at night and forage stuff.
Yeah, which kind of made me laugh, because they're like looting a liquor store and it's fully stocked. Like, what?
Well, I was on the same page, because part of me was like, how long would it take to completely empty out everything in the area?
A few days.
Yeah, 2 days with that many people. There's like a full society like living in this city.
Yeah, and like there's a shopping mall in there and everything, but like everything must have been scavenged. Just leading more to the point, like this money system is just kind of it just really. I was like, this is absurd, but well, for the purposes of the movie, we'll go with it. Why not? So that is the main focus of the movie, this conflict between Kaufman, Cholo, Riley. But you have a lot of other things going on too. Like the zombies are getting smart. Well, one zombie in particular is getting smart. And you also have this subplot of a resistance. I forget the guy's name. You think he's supposed to be like Irish, and he has some like stereotypical Irish name or something like O'Houlihan or something. I can't. I can't quite remember. Um, so that's a lot going on for a 95-minute movie.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There is a lot of subplots. But like I said, I think the main storyline is pretty straightforward. As far as John Leguizamo's character Cholo, he's been saving his money, quote unquote money, whatever that means, and
Yeah.
he figures that he's going to buy his way out of his lower class status. He's
Mm.
him and Denbo are these guys who go out into the night, into the surrounding areas, collect stuff, and bring it back to the society. So he's on the side. He's been working for Kaufman, like taking care of his business. You know what I mean? Like on like he's like an arm in his hydra of activity.
Yeah, it does his dirty work.
Does his dirty work. Yeah. So we see Cholo approach Kaufman, and he's like, yeah, I think I want to move into the upper class here. I have money, and he's like, it's a closed society here. We have to. There's a waiting list. He's like all the bullshit ideas and excuses that you would expect out of like some rich scumbag.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. Cholo is leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else in this as far as a good character. And I really think most of that is due to John Leguizamo being one of the most charismatic actors.
Well, I'm a huge John Leguizamo fan.
He's great.
Whenever I see him in a movie, I'm like, all right, I at least got to watch this because I know that he's going to be good.
Yeah, and he's great in this. And Cholo is a little, like everyone else, is a little underwritten and one-dimensional. But John Leguizamo really gives life to this character. He's kind of a bad guy. He's really only looking out for himself, but he makes him immensely likable, even though like he's basically once he gets rejected by Kaufman, he's just like, well, I'm taking this war machine we have, Dead Reckoning, and I'm going to, blow up your city if you don't let me in. He's kind of the bad guy.
No, he's definitely, well, everyone's the bad guy except for Denbo, really. Like Kaufman's a bad guy because he's like this overlord. And Cholo's a bad guy because he's, like this renegade guy who's going to threaten to destroy the city unless he gets what he wants. And what he wants is really just this self-serving end that he has,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he makes him like I was rooting for Cholo throughout this whole movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And Riley, I think Riley he's supposed to be like the conscious of the movie, and his dialogue made me wince throughout the whole thing. He's like spouting all these lines like, are those gates keeping them out or keeping us in? I'm like, what Sylvia Plath kind of bullshit is this, man? Like, it's so bad, like, that didn't happen to me. Happened to my brother. Everything.
Oh, and he's like, nothing bad's ever happened to me or something like that. Yeah.
And the actor, I know he's on some hit TV show or was, and he's probably a fine actor, but he brings nothing. Riley is a big nothing of a character. I didn't care about him at all.
And Asia Argento's in the movie just because she's Asia Argento and we want to see her run around in a skimpy outfit and like kick people and stuff,
Yeah, that's one thing I have written down. Why is she in this? Like, her character adds nothing to the movie whatsoever. Nothing.
She probably was like, George, I want to be in your next movie.
And he's like, fine, yeah, I'm making a movie about zombies.
Zombies.
Yeah. I can just imagine him chain smoking and pounding black coffee throughout this whole fucking production. But yeah, she's, she's a competent actress for sure, and a filmmaker in her own right. And, it's not her fault that this is a kind of like a nothing character, but there's a lot of characters in this movie already.
Yeah, there are.
A lot of like smaller parts. And I just thought like, okay, like take her out of it, what changes about this movie? And nothing changes.
Well, even Denbo's sidekick there, the guy with whose face is all burned up, like that dude. Whatever his
Yeah.
name is. That guy's like kind of unnecessary, really. You know?
Yeah, he's sort of like Riley's. I mean, he acts as sort of like a bodyguard, like almost like this like samurai thing where like Riley saves his life and now he's indebted to him
Yeah.
forever. So he's like, Riley's fucking right hand man. Yeah, it's not. It's not a. Is he supposed to be slow or something? Did you get that?
Yeah. Yes. I would say that he's a little challenged. And
Yeah.
as well as being disfigured from some accident that he had.
Yeah, and they kind of use it as like a fake out in the beginning of the movie, like, oh no, here comes a zombie. Oh no, he's not a zombie. He's Riley's right hand man.
But it's interesting that you mentioned the samurai thing, because it does have that Japanese sort of vibe, like his character, where he's kind of like the like in a lot of like martial arts and like samurai movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like the main character has this kind of slightly lower, like a little diminished sidekick who's also gives some sort of comic relief to the situation a little bit.
Yeah, I think because he makes little quips here and there to, I guess, relieve what little tension there is in the movie.
Yeah. And we're still like, since this came out in like 2005, we're in that kind of the tail end or maybe the post one-liner era of filmmaking,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like this definitely has an old school vibe to it. I think Romero was pushing 70 when he made this.
Yeah,
and
probably.
it just has that feel of like an older guy wrote it. You have characters named like Cholo and Stack, and it just kind of has like an old fashioned kind of vibe to it. And Dennis Hopper, the great Dennis Hopper, is he's the big bad in this. It's a subtle and over the top performance at the same time. Like
totally, I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean by that. Yes, it's a subtle
Yeah.
and over the top at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very cartoonish and I mean, you also remember this was made during the Bush era, and you have Dennis Hopper's character saying things like, "We don't negotiate with terrorists." Very on the nose. Which is fine, but you know what? It was funny to me is I got serious Trump vibes from Dennis Hopper in this.
Well, I mean, back then Trump was probably a Democrat,
Yeah,
and he was also just like some joke that everyone made fun of in New York City.
yeah, true. But he had like the red tie, and he has the same sort of like dour demeanor as Trump.
Was the red tie always something that Trump relied on? I don't remember.
I don't know, but like it's funny that like you can watch this movie now and see, see some common thread with today's society, So
Yeah.
he got some things right with this, and we got to talk about Dennis Hopper has a servant in this movie, a butler, whatever you want to call him, and I mean, wow.
Well, it's like you said, this is an old school film, where
Yeah.
back like in Romero's day, it was fine to use like broad stereotypes like that.
Sure. So yes, Dennis Hopper has a black butler, we'll say, who's dressed in this outlandish 30s-ish sort of butler outfit, and I had to imagine that even in 2005, this made people cringe a little bit.
Maybe. I think back in 2005, people were still, they weren't so sensitive to things like that. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't age well, and I had to imagine at the time, like it was still like, you can tell Romero's trying to say something with it. I don't think he's like trying to offend anyone or thinking like, yeah, this is hilarious. He's definitely trying to say something. I just,
Yeah.
got a little lost there.
I mean, he's definitely painting a picture for Kaufman to be like, this like elite, like upper class, like scumbag, guy who bends the rules, who clearly has opinions about race. Because actually, I think he's even one of the reasons why Cholo is not welcome in that society is that he's a Latin guy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we mentioned before things that could be exercised from this movie, Asia Argento. The whole resistance subplot. I feel like there must have been a version of this script that had that more fleshed out and important to the story, because you have this guy, this Irish guy, who's sort of the rebel rouser of the slums.
Because you kind of forget about him. You know what I mean? Like
you totally forget about him.
They establish him in the beginning, and then he comes back at the end, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? He's
got like an M16.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's in jail with Riley too, so he's in the beginning, middle, and end. And that's it. Like again, it's very. There is kernels of a great movie in here. There's some great ideas happening. It just doesn't really spend enough time on any of it. Okay, like why is this Big Daddy zombie so smart? He doesn't act like a zombie. I thought he was at all. Like, even a smart zombie would just be that, like a smart zombie. In Day of the Dead, Bub needs to be taught. Like you learn, zombies can learn, they can be taught things. But Big Daddy, he's sort of been out in the wild, and yet he becomes the leader of this zombie resistance.
Yeah, that's never really explained at all. It just sort of arises from the primordial muck of zombiedom,
Yeah, and it sort of lowers the stakes of Cholo's arc. Like Cholo's going to blow up the city if he doesn't get his way, but it's a new point, a point because the zombies came and like overran the city anyway. It kind of goes back to that. Well, I think every zombie movie ends with the zombies getting in. And to me, this would have been more interesting if it was you focus more on the resistance and then sort of tearing everything down, or maybe Cholo does he has a moment like, should I do this? Should I not do that? Or maybe he does blow up the city. I don't know. Anything but like, okay, zombies come and they, tear shit up. The end.
I would have left Asia Argento in the movie, and I would have did away with the resistance.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I would have focused mostly on I would have made the primary narrative Cholo versus Kaufman.
Yeah, and also like Riley and Cholo, you get the sense that they're maybe not friends, but there's a respect. They've worked together. They have different ideas about how to do that. To me, it was like that. There's an interesting idea too. Like to get what he wants, has to make a deal with Kaufman to take Cholo out of the picture. Right. Everyone's double and triple crossing everyone in this movie.
And that's the story right there. You know what I mean? Like I think that, and that's why you need Asia Argento, because Riley finds her when she's in this like cage, fighting the zombies.
Oh God, yeah.
And he springs her from there, and then he shoots that midget gets killed, right? And then
I completely forgot. Oh my God. That scene was like, speaking of absurd, that whole concept of that scene was like, what in the fuck? Why would anyone think like getting your picture taken with a zombie? I was like, are there tourists in Land of the Dead?
That the little guy, like even that is like a total throwback to the 80s.
Totally. Yeah.
They wouldn't have that these days. You know what I mean? Like there wouldn't be a character like that.
No, absolutely not. You wouldn't see Peter Dinklage in this role whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that whole idea of like you're trying to protect society, but you have zombie fights and take your picture with the zombie. It just rang. It was like, oh, okay, this is like Coney Island or fucking the sunsets. Like I really it felt like I had this like a tourist vibe to it, which I mean, yeah, I would, yeah, absurd.
And anyone out there, just who wants to think that we live in a kinder, gentler world that's free of cruelty and stuff and insensitivity is that's not true. You mentioned Coney Island. Like just a couple of years ago, they had that thing out there where there's like shoot the geek or something like that. Where
Really?
yeah, there was like this like a vacant lot between these two buildings on Coney Island, and you could go down there, and some dude runs around. You can shoot him with a paintball gun. That was literally just like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Is when I still lived in Brooklyn.
Oh wow, yeah. I remember the last time I was there was when the day after the last ISIS show. I went up to Brooklyn, Gravesend, Brooklyn, to visit John LaMacchia, hang out, and make some music, and we ended up like just drinking a bunch and wandering around Coney Island. It was cool, man. I liked it in a weird sort of like in a weird sort of way.
Coney Island is still awesome, and it's like it really is kind of like this timeless like place. You know what I mean?
Real throwback to like to an era before my time.
Yeah, it exists in like a bubble, and you could still see like really weird shit there.
So yeah, I guess that makes sense in like Romero's point he's trying to make of ignoring the problem. Like here we have this like, we have entertainment for you, but if you're trying to keep people safe, maybe not have like zombie fights and.
No, yeah,
and,
definitely not. But that's how that's how Denbo ends up in a scenario where he needs someone to help him. He busts Slack, out of the cage. They, the midget gets shot, and they end up they end up.
We're gonna get some emails about this one, Mike.
they ended up in jail. So that's it. That's how now Denbo has a mission to fulfill, right? Because Kaufman gets him out of jail.
Yes, yeah. Now he's indebted to Kaufman, and
yeah,
he wants him to track down Cholo and Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning is the name of that this sort of souped up truck.
Yeah, it's like this death machine, like battle wagon, that they go out into the field with it and they like, blow up shit with it. You know what I mean? And it's like this, and it's somehow it's Kaufman's. He's the guy who actually he took Denbo's design. Right? Don't they indicate that it was actually Denbo's design?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Denbo has somewhat of a claim on this thing too.
That's right. Yeah, he has a tracking device on it. He feels like it's his.
Yeah, but Kaufman is the guy with the money and the means to have this thing built. So he sees it as his too. See, that's what I mean. That's all you need really is this little drama between these guys, and you got a good story there. Like you don't need this like resistance. You don't need any kind of like uprising or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or like the smart zombies, or like
you don't even need that either really.
Yeah, they're great ideas, but I just feel like they're underwritten and rushed. You're just like, here is Big Daddy. He's smart. He knows how to use a gun. He can teach the zombies to. What do they call them? Skyflowers. They call
they get
fireworks
they get dazzled by the fireworks, and so that's part of their mission when they go out into the field is they shoot off fireworks. It immobilizes the zombies because they get dazzled by it and they're staring up into the sky, and that's when they go in they do all their looting and stuff. But then one day, out of the blue, Big Daddy decides that why am I looking up at this thing in the sky? and then everyone else follows suit with that too. All the other zombies.
Yeah, he's teaching the other zombies how to use like tools, and then he leads them across the water. I guess the zombies are thought to never be able to cross the river, and one day they just do because Big Daddy teaches them. Visually, it's cool to see all the zombies come up out of the water. It was a nice visual moment.
That's like a
Um,
nod to Lucio Fulci, I think, in that part.
yeah, and another thing, this is why I kind of feel this fits in more with the original trilogy. This actually looks and feels like a Romero zombie movie, whereas his last two really didn't. It just felt like a director completely tapped out and just. I can just imagine him doing a one take, being like, "Okay, cut, yeah, sure, that's fine, moving on." Like it wasn't made with a lot of passion. This still really feels like George Romero wanted to do this and had something to say. And little moments like that are like a nice reminder, like, oh yeah, it's a there's some good shot compositions and ideas going on in this. Whereas the last two were just fucking disasters.
I'll give you that, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so you got Riley who has to like basically fuck his friend Cholo, fuck over his friend Cholo. Kaufman has sent people to sort of shadow Riley. Um, and you get the feeling that Kaufman is going to double cross Riley. Okay, so Riley takes out Cholo, these people take out Riley, Kaufman wins. He gets rid of two of his headaches. And yeah, one of the guys is like Samoan or something like that, playing another like weirdly stereotypical character that like I guess is supposed to be kind of funny.
And his name is Pillsbury too. What the fuck? Like, why? Where'd that name come from?
I completely missed that. Yeah, and he has like he delivers this line as like something you'd see in like the 50s. His character is just so cartoonish. Like, on my island, we have 50 cars. 50 cars all stolen or something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. Wow. So yeah, everyone's sort of double crossing everyone. And while all this is going on, the zombies are planning their takeover, and their perfect little bubble in Fiddler's Green gets popped, and they get through, and all hell breaks loose, like you see in pretty much every zombie movie.
Yeah, and there's always like the scene where some dude gets ripped apart, and like
Yeah,
his intestines get pulled out and all that,
yeah, and on that level, I got what? This is also the first time I think I remember really noticing bad digital effects.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I feel. I mean, I know they were starting to become a thing, but to see it in like a bigger budget Hollywood movie, the digital blood, or like there's one zombie that appears headless, and then he kind of like his head comes back on or whatever. He like flicks it forward, and it just looked really cringy even back then.
Yeah, that looked really bad, I thought too.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, the effects are great. Some of the kills are great. Yeah, you have like the guy, like you said, getting torn apart. You have a guy like this in Fury. You have like a skateboarding kid with like his headphones on.
I was thinking the same thing, man. I'm like, I would
Like,
not have headphones on in a scenario like that.
yeah, exactly. People just are constantly doing stupid shit like that. And Mike, you said something to me, however many years ago we talked about this movie, about the like Riley's line where like they get dead reckoning, and they have a chance to like blow up all the zombies. He's like, no, they're just trying to find a place just like us. And I remember, do you remember what you said to me about that?
I don't remember what I said back then.
You were like, that was like your big problem with the movie back then. You're like, I would have fucking obliterated those things. Like, what is he talking about?
No, okay. I feel the same way then. Yes.
Yeah. Like, again, like, I think that character needs, like, there seems to be some sort of interesting backstory with Mr. Denbo that we just don't get. He doesn't want to be a part of this society. His big thing is, I want to go where there's no one. Oh, okay. Sure. And he has sort of a chip on his shoulder with everything, but you never really get a really good sense of who he is. Not like, that's one thing about the original three. Romero zombie movies is the characters are believable and somewhat relatable. You get a sense of who they are, who they were before this. You don't with Riley. He's just a dead weight on screen. Like it's not a good character. It could be, but it's just not written. The writing's just not there.
I agree with that. It's you're just supposed to take it as in stride that something horrible happened in his life that made him that way. But like some kind of character development would have been due, I think, for to flesh it out more.
Yeah, like I would say the main character should have been Cholo and focused more on him and less on Riley Dembo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
have him be the secondary characters. Cholo is far more interesting, far more charismatic performance from John Leguizamo. Um, and he's probably ad-libbing a lot. He's known for like improv and being quick. It just made him such a better character. More stakes. Like this guy really wanted something and was denied it. And Riley is just sort of this whiny teenager, like, I don't want to be around people. People suck.
Yeah, they don't spend a lot of time on the initial double cross that Kaufman meets out onto Cholo. You know what I mean? They kind of just, all right, he double crossed him and now he's getting revenge or hold, you know what I mean? Like, or trying to hold the city for ransom, but they don't really play that up as much, you know? And yeah.
Yeah, like it's sort of a mess. It's a competent movie, but it's also very messy. And I think that's Romero's problem is he thinks big and then really has to scale it back because I think you guys mentioned this on the Day of the Dead episode. Romero really was planning something big and epic with that. And I think they're like the budget for what he wanted was obscene for the time, probably like 40, 50 million or something.
Right.
I can't remember. And it forced him to scale back, which you brought this up was a good thing. Like the movie he ended up making was fantastic, but it's not what he originally intended for Day of the Dead.
Well, I guess that's like what my like I in today's world watching this movie again. I like it better than I did back then. Okay. But Romero works better in these like claustrophobic environments.
Yes.
And this is definitely not a claustrophobic film.
No, it's the most out in the world movie he's made. Yeah, you have the first one's a house, second one's a mall, third one's a bunker, and here this is like a sort of contained city.
Yeah, but they also go out into the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's this Dead Reckoning. Originally, I think Dead Reckoning was the original title for this. I think that's what Romero wanted to call this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I can assume like that's a studio, like, oh, Of the Dead is popular right now. We need to tie this into your past or in the remake and everything like that. I could be mistaken, but I remember like for years Romero saying he was working on something called Dead Reckoning.
I think you're right about that, actually.
Yeah. So has time been kind to this movie? I would say yes.
Well, for me, I like it more than I did back in when I saw it, back in 2005 or whatever, because I didn't like the comedic notes in the film necessarily.
Yeah. Although, like, if you look back, all Romero's movies do have a bit of comedy in them. We just probably interpret it differently than when we originally saw them as we do, now.
Well, Night of the Living Dead, I would say, does not have any comedic elements in that.
That's true. Yeah, that's
just
a pretty
fucking bleak darkness,
Yeah, well, Day of the Dead is even bleaker, but there are sort of humorous moments. Bub is a little humorous at times, saluting and shit like that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
this is
but there's like things where it's not as broad as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but
right.
I look at this as like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 of the Dead series. for Romero. You know.
Sure, it's a little bit more tongue in cheek. It's very much winking at the audience. Like I said, we have Tom Savini, I guess, coming back as a machete zombie. You have Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright from the great Shaun of the Dead. Would
Yeah.
love that movie. That's obviously a wink and a nod. It's very self-referential and aware of itself in that regard. I would agree with you that, yeah, this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 of Romero's zombie movie. That's a great way to put it.
Well, when did Shaun of the Dead come out?
It did because, I was living in North Carolina when that came out, and I was living in New York when Land of the Dead came out. So, yeah, I would say 2003, 2004, Shaun of the Dead came out.
Wow, I didn't think it was that old.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. That's a great one, man. That was a really fucking solid movie. A true classic, if you ask me.
Someone gets ripped apart in that movie, too.
Yeah, for a comedy, it's pretty fucking gory and grim.
But it's like that. There's always that scene, though, where the guy's on his back and there's like all these zombies and they just tear him apart, and there's like intestines and stuff coming out, You have to have that in every zombie movie.
Yeah, this movie, this movie, Land of the Dead, is kind of missing that element, that disturbing bleakness that is present in his other zombie movies. There's not a lot of weight to any of the characters' deaths. I mean, most of the characters live.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was perceived that Cholo and Kaufman are bad guys, and they get their comeuppance in this.
Yeah, and Cholo dies sort of like a noble death. He wants to end this guy Kaufman, and he becomes a zombie that still remembers how to use his crossbow for some reason. Still remembers his vendetta, but Kaufman doesn't get a good death. Not like Rhodes or the other characters you know and love from the original trilogy. He just blows up, and a guy like Kaufman, he's the big bad, he's the one you're supposed to hate, and he sort of gets dispatched rather he's gone. Right. It would have been great to see him get getting his fucking head eaten or something, anything.
Well, that's what I was. Yeah, he would have been the guy that should have gotten torn apart by the gang of zombies,
Yeah, exactly. If you're gonna go to that well of tropes that you so often do, go to that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, watching it, in 2023, it's been almost 20 years since this came out, and there is a bit of nostalgia with that. With this, shot on film, it looks a bit older. It's made with some level of passion. It doesn't hold a candle to the original trilogy, but it is leaps and bounds better than what Romero produced after. So, yeah, not a classic, but still not terrible.
So what do you give it as a numerical grade?
I'm going to give it a 3.5. Mostly because I like John Leguizamo's character in this a lot, and he brought a lot to the table. And the fact that, I feel like this is Romero's really last solid go as a director, unfortunately. What about you?
I have a 3 down for my score. And but keep in mind, if you would ask me back when this came out what I would have gave it, I would have gave it like a 2 or something like that, probably.
Same exact thing. Yeah, I was like, this is like a C+ at best, but now I've upped it to like a solid B. It's fine. Not what I wanted at the time, but now, watching it now, and it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's got a lot of problems, but it's fairly entertaining, goes down easy. You don't really think about it too much after the fact.
Yeah, I guess it didn't stick around very much, with me. You know what I mean? It's not this thing that I don't even think about this movie really. I mean, you brought this up, and I was like, I barely ever think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wouldn't have thought about it until I heard your Day of the Dead episode, and I was like, you know what? No one ever really remembers Land of the Dead. Maybe we should talk about it.
Are we going to do the other two?
Oh God! I saw those two in the theater as well, and they didn't even play in the theater. Our mutual friend Jay Bennett was he got what do you call it? Screening invites because he reviewed movies for magazines sometimes.
Yes.
So I got to go see Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead at like a press screening in this somewhere in Beverly Hills. Got this swank private theater that looked like just a really, really nice home theater. And I saw those two movies with the best Christmas sound and great screen, and I was like, man, what a fucking waste. I wish I was seeing something like really great instead of watching this piece of shit.
I don't even think, I don't know if I saw the Survival of the Dead.
It's bad. You know how whenever I'm watching the original trilogy, whichever one I'm currently watching, I'm like, this is the best one. With those two movies, I'm like, no, this one's the worst one. I honestly couldn't answer that because I'm like, when I told you, like, if I was just watching Diary of the Dead, I'd be like, yeah, this is terrible. This is the worst one. And then if I watch Survival of the Dead right after, it's definitely this one.
Diary was the found footage one, right?
Yeah, which kind of like was a cool idea at the time. Found footage wasn't new, but it wasn't so much a dime a dozen back then. And like, Romero doing a zombie found footage movie, that sounded interesting. And man, it's just bad. It just seemed like a director completely out of touch, not really like understanding what makes found footage work. It doesn't work at all. It's really bad.
And Survival is a scripted, like it's like a very it's like a regular movie, right?
Yeah, I remember.
Did see it. Yeah, I'm just looking at the IMDb right now. Yeah,
it's got like a Hatfield and McCoy kind of thing happening.
Yeah,
these rival fans. Yeah, I don't remember anything. I couldn't tell you one character or any death or like it's so forgettable.
Yeah, I barely remember seeing it, but now looking at the IMDb, I definitely saw it.
You know what it felt like? Like the movie you were talking about at the beginning, the Day of the Dead thing, Reams' Day of the Dead. I didn't see that, but I imagine like that's the kind of vibe I was getting. Like it felt like a sci-fi TV production.
Like even the acting in that Day of the Dead is so bad. Like you don't ever once believe you're actually seeing the characters themselves. You're seeing actors the whole time. You know what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's how bad it is. You know.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe one day if I'm not feeling well, I'm gonna throw that on. I'm gonna save that for a day like that.
As a completist, I felt compelled to watch it. You know, and now I've seen it. You know.
Yeah, you did it, man.
For better or for worse, I've seen it.
Well, I think I think we got this Land of the Dead covered.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, it's fun, and let us know what you guys think. Listening, always curious to hear other people's opinions. And Mike, you and I don't do a lot of older movies. We usually stick to the new stuff, so it's kind of fun to go back and revisit something that was not quite a classic.
Yeah, have you seen Infinity Pool yet?
No, I haven't. I forgot. Like it's available to buy digitally, not rent.
It'll be out on some streaming service pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, sure. We got to do that. And I saw not Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah, that's another one I got to watch.
I can't pull the trigger on that one, man. I don't know. I know. Dude, tonight would be the perfect night to go see it because I got nothing to do tonight. It's Friday.
Yeah.
And
it's streaming.
Oh, it's streaming.
Yeah, I think same thing. I think maybe you can rent it, but
All right.
I think I'm not. Don't hold me to that. I know it is streaming though.
Okay. All right. Part of me is like I had plans. There's options to stuff to do tonight, and one of the things I want to go to is I can't go to it now because it's sold out. And then the other thing is like I don't really feel like doing the other thing. And then so going to the movies is like cool. And I can go to that 10 o'clock show, and hopefully, at this point, I think no one's going to be there.
Yeah, you're the king of the 10 o'clock shows.
Dude, I love it, man. Except for Skinamarink. It was like I was like super creeped out at the 10 o'clock show for Skinamarink.
I do the opposite thing when I go to the movies. I go to like the 9:55 a.m. show.
Yeah, for me that's tough though, unless it's like the weekend,
Yeah.
And I like going at night. I like going when it's at a mall, which is like funny, this theater.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the mall closes at 10. So the movie theater is like the access for it is on the second floor, and it has like its own entrance from outside the mall. So I park in the parking garage and I walk over there and do my thing. But then at Skinamarink though, I was so freaked out after that movie that I was like I had all this anxiety about walking in my car.
Really?
Isn't that fucking funny?
Yeah, no, I can see it. Yeah,
And I couldn't
had
sleep
nightmares
that
after
night.
I saw it. Yeah,
I couldn't
same.
sleep that night when I got home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really movie gets under your skin if you let it.
I know that when I go see Cabin in the yeah, there you go. Knock at the Cabin. I know I'm going to be disappointed. I just know it. So that's why part of me is like, I shouldn't see it in the theater. I should watch it at home.
Yeah, I haven't been to the theater in so goddamn long. I know. I think we're definitely going to go see the new Ari Aster movie in the theater. Although I can't say the trailer looks promising, but we'll see.
Hard pass for me, man. I don't know.
You're not on the Ari Aster train. I forgot.
Nah, not really. I mean, maybe. I haven't written Ari Aster off, but this new one, I know that's just not my kind of thing, really.
Yeah, definitely getting. Oh God, what's that guy's name? He makes Schenectady, New York, and he wrote Being John Malkovich and
Oh yeah,
adaptation. What is his name? Anyway, I'm getting that kind of vibe from it.
There's another forthcoming movie that looks really interesting called Ennis, Maine. And it's I saw the trailer for it at Skinamarink actually, and it's it's one of those like kind of experimental, but maybe not to the extent that that Skinamarink is, but it has like this British folk thing going on.
Right.
It looks like it's going to be this kind of like meditative, non-linear story sort of thing, and the appearance of it has this like, it looks like it was filmed in the 70s kind of.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I remember I was the next day I saw the trailer, I texted Rennie about it, and I was like, oh yeah, man, I saw this trailer, it looks cool. He's like, oh, that movie's finally coming out, like, 'cause he's known about it for like fucking years apparently.
Oh wow.
I was like, of course, that guy. So I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it looks intriguing. Apparently it's available to pre-order already on a Blu-ray on some European website.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what? I still got to watch The Outwaters.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I did.
Oh, well, save your thoughts then.
It's on. I watched it on Screenbox, which I'm going to be canceling that subscription soon.
Well, I think I know how you felt about it. I'll text you later tonight because I think I've been trying to watch it for a while, but my girlfriend and I like to watch movies together, and I've been trying to get, like, let's watch this, and she's like, I don't know if I want to sit through another 2-hour like head trip contemplative like horror movie with you.
Well, I got Screenbox to see History of the Occult. It's a Spanish horror film. It's like this Lovecraftian. It sounds like it's a documentary, but it's not. It's like a.
Yeah, you were talking about this.
That was very, very good. So I hung on to the subscription because I saw that the Outwaters is exclusive on that, and I missed it in the theater, which is probably good because I would have been bummed if I paid like $18 to see that movie.
That's a ringing endorsement from Mike Hill, everyone.
People like it though, man. I've seen a lot of good reviews of this thing.
I gotta say, it sounds like it's right up my alley. So,
dude,
yeah.
I challenge you to watch that and let me know what you think about it. Seriously, dude. Let me know how you feel about it when you see it.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, I'm gonna check it out.
Maybe we should do an episode on it, even if even if we both dislike it, maybe it would be a fun movie to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we both love Dashcam.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right,
man.
I think we got that covered.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye now.